on, but I'm exhausted, to say the least, and not just physically, but emotionally and mentally as well. It's just not something that
Hey guys, and welcome back to Little Black Book. You know what time it is. I told you guys about Married at First Sight. We're dealing with Miles and Karen, and dealing with the issue of Karen's lack of actual physical intimacy. Yep, guys, if you're new to the channel, make sure you like, share, subscribe, click on that bell button for a notification of the uploads. And for those of you returnees, you got the minerals, yes, baby. Alright, cool. So, we're gonna probably have like 4 parts of this video, so I'm gonna break it down. In this particular episode of episode 13, we got to see Miles and Karen in COVID. And let me tell you something about COVID. COVID, as one of our great sisters says on one of the lives that we did, COVID is a relationship tester for a lot of people, because a lot of people actually don't know how to spend time with their partner. And, that is someone you've been with for 10, 20 years. And actually what COVID can do is expose the lack of intimacy that we have on an emotional or mental
level. That may have been a little bit too much for Karen. And I understand that she is going through a tough time with work and quarantine stuff, like completely understand.
Level. And so what we're seeing here with these couples is that they're thrown into a situation where now, if you didn't already have a good base in terms of you liking each other, this is going to make or break you, for real. Because now you're having to spend much time with that person and get to know them, talk, interact, do things, find things to do within the confinement of a house. And that can be very difficult if you're not good talkers, if you're not good communicators, if you're already suffering physical intimacy problems and sexual intimacy problems, which is what Miles and Karen are suffering right now. I think when we got to see the episode, the very first thing we got to see was the fact that Miles acts of service all over again.
To help support first responders, I'm trying to do little things that I can around here to make her feel comfortable and safe when she's at home. Clean up, washing dishes in here, get some.
Right, now we've got to see Miles over the course of the episodes, Miles being a loving, caring person who wants to do for Karen, right? We saw this with the car situation, where he fixed her car. We saw this with the food, bringing in somebody to help them cook food together and learn how to cook food together. We've seen this in terms of the way that he cares for Karen, buys her gifts, for the anniversary, which she didn't buy one, no shade. So, we see Miles's care externally. Here's my issue. As much as obviously I believe that Karen, may be suffering at the moment in terms of, for instance, not being able to externally showcase how she feels, I can't give her a free pass. What I mean by that, I mean as in, I can't give you a free pass in the fact that you can't show your feelings outwardly. Why? Because in some shape or form, we talk about 5 love languages here all the time. And in the 5 love languages, what we speak about is the fact that yes, yes, in the 5 love languages, yes, people have different love languages, but they are showcased externally in the sense of like acts of service. You do things for the person. The words of affirmation, you say something to them. Gifts, you buy something for them. Quality time, you spend time with them. You know what I'm saying? Like physical touch, you touch them. So everything's external. There is no excuse for I'm an internal person. Internal is an excuse. There are introverts and extroverts, and introverts, even they show outward or external appreciation in one of those 5 brackets. So for me, there is no excuse as to why Karen can't do these things. Now, obviously, I understand that Karen, in this particular episode, we got to see that she is one of the first responders. She's going out there with a COVID, similar to Olivia, and we appreciate that. We clap it and we thank it. But like I said, COVID exposes what is already there. It's a pressure on a point. Okay, it's almost like having an injury and pressing on that injury. What COVID does is that it just applies a lot of pressure on an area of your relationship. So because obviously now, previously Miles was okay but not happy with the physical intimacy, now with COVID, it's going to be exposed
about being bored or not having enough to do, and I'm still not quite sure what it looks like when he is feeling depressed.
Even more. So you see the scene where he says, Karen's gone out now, and the very first thing you got to see is that him half naked with no shirt on, trying to kiss Karen. He almost had to force the kiss, bro. For me, that's problematic. Because again, this comes down to the fact that she lacks in the area of physical intimacy. And again, this will go back to when people start saying that Karen just doesn't like him. Because the whole point is this. Listen, let me tell you something. Let me be real. Yeah. Now, there are times where we lack in areas. For instance, I personally, I'm a words of affirmation person. I'm also, a quality time type of person, right? So for me, I understand that, I talk and I'll tell you I appreciate you and then I'll show you, right? In terms of quality time. Now, in terms of gifts, I'm not very good at gifts. But if you talk to me about gifts that you like, I might say to you, listen, look, I'm not very good at gifts. Like, it's not my area. Like, how do I do that better? Like, what kind of gifts would you want? Then, you see, we're having a conversation about it. Do you understand? We're having a conversation about it. Now, when I like you, yeah, okay, I'm going to want to learn this. Because this is a honeymoon phase. This is what I'm trying to say. Like, in the honeymoon phase, people do the wildest things. Because it's a honeymoon phase. And if you couldn't bend your back and lift up your finger at this point in a honeymoon phase, you are not going to do this later on. It's, you know what I'm saying? It's going to be very hard for you to pick up the slack now. Because what the honeymoon phase is when I look at it from a Christian point of view, God has a honeymoon phase of us too, right? You pray about everything in the honeymoon phase when you first get born again and saved as a Christian, right? And as you do that, God answers all your prayers, yeah? Everything you've praying for seems to come to pass, yeah? And what God is trying to do to you there is build a foundation. He's trying to get you to trust him. Hey, look, as you're praying, everything's coming to pass. I'm showing you I'm dependable, I'm reliable, I answer prayers, I'm real. Yeah? And what that does for the person is it builds an experience bank in them. Now, when you come out the honeymoon phase, and many of you experience this, when you come out the honeymoon phase, things ain't so simple. When you pray for it, it don't happen like that. When you're in a relationship, the same thing happens. You're in a honeymoon phase, everything seems easy going. You get over arguments easy. You let things go. You're willing to talk about certain things. You're on your best behavior. Rah, 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 rah. Yeah? And then what happens is, okay, as you exit the honeymoon phase, you then begin to have real feelings and thoughts, and you're like, actually, I don't like this, I don't like that, I don't like this, I don't like that. And the same thing happens in Christianity. So the honeymoon phase is to build a foundation, and at that point you are your most flexible. Yeah, the relationship's at a baby phase. They're flexible, they're bendable, they're feedable. You know what I'm saying? And if you couldn't do bendable stuff, then you're gonna find it very hard in the most independable part, I should say, in unbendable part, of your relationship. You're gonna find it hard to now change the way you behave. So now we're seeing this lack of physical intimacy from Karen towards Miles. What do you expect him to do? Do you know what I'm saying?
Not quite sure what it looks like when he is feeling depressed.
A couple years ago, I was diagnosed with clinical depression. So there's days where
Karen made a point that that he made complaints about being bored and that not many things to do. I didn't think that was to do with the depression. I didn't think that was an onslaught of depression. I thought that, bro, let me tell you something. Everybody suffered in the beginning stage of COVID. We didn't know what to do. We had all this free time and suddenly, listen, if you were on Twitter, you would have seen so many tweets from people saying, blood, it's kind of mad. I've always wanted more free time, but actually I'm kind of confused. What do I do this free time? Nobody knew what to do. Nobody, because it was so much free time. We were suddenly confused. We wanted this free time, but now we don't know what to do with all the free time. And so everybody gets bored. Everybody gets to a point where what do I do with my time? And it takes a little bit of a time to get into a routine of what I should be doing in a spare time. Do you feel what I'm saying? So this is a new thing. This is unprecedented. This wasn't to do with depression. This is to do just simply him wanting more of you, right? And again, I felt like that was a deflection, but I can't say 100%. I'm just going to say I felt like it was a deflection to get away from the truest point, which is that he's requesting more of your time. He's requesting more of you hands-on. He's requesting something of you that you're not willing to give just yet. That's the problem I'm seeing early on.
I'm exhausted, to say the least, and not just physically, but emotionally and mentally as well. It's just not something that...
Obviously, she's exhausted emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally, and I hear that because, you're going to work and you're first responder, you're on COVID call responses. That is draining. You're working so many hours. But let me tell you something about people. You weren't doing the basics for Miles what he needed in the beginning. you're not going to start doing it now when you're under pressure. That's the point. You're now under pressure from work. You're not going to now do what he needs. That's the problem. You never sorted out the problem originally. And so you've paved over the cracks, and now the cracks have been exposed. And again, you're talking about how, you know, you're exhausted, you're mentally tired. Listen, what he needed from you before you got to this point. And you haven't given it to him. Of course, now when you're tired, you're not going to give it to him. If anything, it's going to become even more irritable, even more annoying, because you're like, why are you expecting this from me when you know I'm going through what I'm going through? And yet, it's not like Miles has just been like, you know, trying to request, you know, crazy stuff. The guy has been requesting, but also supporting you. He's been cooking, he's been cleaning, he's been doing things for you before you get home, so that when you get home, it's a comfortable journey. That's the kind of guy that you need, Karen. You're out here pulling mad shifts on the most difficult. We know about COVID. It's a difficult period of time, and he's pulling out those things for you. So now you've gone to work hard, come home, and things are being done for you. What a blessing! What a grace! You understand? And then obviously the point made by Miles here, and I think it's a very prominent point, which was that, again, he's made his point over the last few weeks, which is sort of discussing about this, about wanting to feel needed. And so we saw this scene where he's sitting down, he's got his arm on, and listen, it's forced because he's reached out his hand there, he's resting, he's reached his arm there. Karen's legs are in the opposite direction. Listen, she's facing a different direction, but her legs are even a different direction. She said, no, I'm not even going to even focus on you. I'm not even going to entertain you. I'm on my phone, I'm not in your presence. You're holding me, that's enough for you. What you're doing is giving bare minimum, yeah? And, you know, something I want to just encourage as well here is that, you know, if you've been watching our video, my channel for the last few weeks now, we've been discussing marriage talks, okay? Please join us on a Tuesday and a Wednesday, 7 p.m. live at the moment, because we're doing some lives on relationships and marriage. What's really interesting about dealing with marriage is how we have to, you know, problem solve and resolve issues. And, you know, you can't fight someone. You can't expect someone to fight when they're not in the ring with you. You know, that's a famous line by the film, Why Did I Get Married To? Like, I cannot physically drag you into this marriage. You have to be a part of it. You have to be a willing participant. You understand? Like, I'm not God. I can't change your heart. Like, you have to want this. And so,
You can't say that, then in my mind, this isn't what you want.
when you see Miles, his hand is holding on to her, and she's not responsive to that touch, and, you know, even when he rises drastically, and it was a drastic rise up, you know, what happens is still, you know, still she doesn't even move. She's not fazed by the move. In fact, she doesn't even see it in the corner of her eye. That should let you know her concentration is nowhere near him. Her concentration is nowhere near him. You understand? She's focused on her and her needs alone. And that is where the concern lies. And so this COVID situation has further exasperated and shown us just how far Karen is away from the essentialness of need that Miles is requesting of her. You know what I mean? Like, that's where we're at the moment. Obviously, the fact that he feels like he's not wanted by her. And that's interesting because, obviously, like I said, weeks back, or even a week ago, so last episode that we watched, when he was talking to Armani and Woody, and it was interesting because, obviously, he was exposing the relationship there. But I think he was looking for some solitude. He was looking for some confirmation, looking for some support to say, hey, look, do you know what? Like, I'm going through this. Like, I'm trying to get this attention. I'm trying to get needed. And the fact is, he mentioned it there and then. Surely, Karen, you should have picked up on that. Like, even if you were vexed at the fact that he was talking out of turn, surely you would have picked up on the fact that my man said, listen, he doesn't feel like he's being loved by me. And you're telling me you're showing signs, and yet the person's still not getting it. So therefore, there needs to be a change in the communication, because you say that you're communicating and you're showing him signs that you want him. What signs are you showing, love? Tell me what signs you're showing, because at the moment you're not operating in any particular signs. I'm not seeing it. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, we need to see that. If we can't see it, I don't know how Miles going to see it. We've got cameras on you couldn't see it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if anyone can pull up a video where we can say that Karen definitely wants Miles. Yes, she said 1 or 2 times she finds Miles attractive, but I've told you already, every dog has its day. You know, he mentioned a point as well that, you know, if you can't say it, then is it really what you want? And I think this is where Miles was becoming fed up, and we'll do this in the second part of the video. Miles was becoming fed up and actually realizing this is not what I really want. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be at this place in the relationship. I want to be further along. I want to be able to experience some real things. I want to be able to taste some real things of relationships. I want to have this aspect of physical intimacy. And you know what? Physical intimacy, again, I'm telling you, listen, I know Miles is not getting no sex from her. If he had physical intimacy, he wouldn't be complaining. But right now, he's not getting that. You know, we know this already. And so, again, her behavior of being cold and not being attentive is showing to him, again, remember, it's interpreted meaning, it's being shown to him that she's not interested. Like, if we were watching this as a relationship, we might be saying, bro, take a hint, the girl's not on it. You know what I'm saying? But because of the marriage, we're having to work through this. So what's... and we'll deal with this in another video. You know, there's going to have to be some serious talks around what the person is expecting and what they want. But what I would say is that point is that, just like we saw in the beginning of the episode where he goes to kiss her and it looks like she's not really on that kiss, that should let you know where she is in the physical intimacy stage. She's just not close. She's not even in the same vicinity. And I don't know how long Miles has to do this for or needs to do this, but remember, we're 2 weeks over time. We're 2 weeks over decision day, yeah? And, you know, our brother's getting a bit weary, you know, feel me? But we'll deal with the fact that obviously the physical intimacy in another video. We're going to deal with Miles's conversation with, you know, Pastor Calvin, and Karen's conversation with Dr. Pepper as well. We're going to deal with some real issues in those videos. Guys, make sure you like, share, subscribe, click on the bell button for notification of the uploads, and we appreciate you. Stay locked, stay loaded.